You feeling good? You feeling ready?
Yeah, I think so. As live as or as good as I can be.
This is as alive as I can be. Yeah, we're just winging it anyway. It's not like we prep anything. Well, I will defer to you as my fearless leader as always, so throw whatever to me or I'll go after you.
Yeah, I don't... Gosh, this is tough. This is tough. Why is it not going live?
What?
I'm just trying to figure out why it won't go live.
So on mine it says 2.5 minutes still.
Oh, it is. Okay, it is live. I do have...
Oh.
Okay, sweet. Let's see here. I just need I need to give a... Not what I wanted. Share. Populate. I'm guessing I should try and pull up our show notes, huh?
Might need some of those. Starting soon.
Alrighty, welcome in everybody. I think here we are just going to start the podcast off. This is our first time doing this. We are going to have a lot of bumps in the road. This is my first time going live with the OBS software. My name is Ryan Walters. You are listening to the Victorious POD, and you are actually watching it as well. If you are here on YouTube, we thank you very, very much for tuning in for our very, very first podcast and live stream. Joining here with me, I've got Jack Vickers. Jack, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, man? Good to be back.
I'm doing good. I would say that I'm a little stressed out because I am totally not prepared for this, and this is something completely brand new, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and I think we're going to roll with the punches. So let's start off with what's going on with the league. I mean, do we have any news? I mean, what's going on with the league?
Yeah, we got a few things that are going on. We as those of you know who are in the league and those who aren't, we just finished up our drafts this past week, and we're getting ready for football kicking off tomorrow. So week 1 matchups are starting off. We had a little bit of a bumpy off season with the not knowing if we're going to have football or what else is going on, but we're here. We've almost made it, and yeah, we're going to get a little bit more in depth of our league.
Right on. Yeah, this year, 2020 has been such a whirlwind, and Victorious POD, I'm sorry, the Victorious Secret Fantasy Football League has been, hasn't been excluded from 2020's wrath, especially with COVID. We've actually done things really different this year when it comes to determining our draft. Normally, we would do the lottery system where we would have all the ping pong balls, and Tyler and Katie would have a video from their house with their awesome makeshift Powerball machine, or whatever you want to call it. But this year, Alex came out big, and he helped us out, and he did a Super Smash Brothers tournament that decided our draft order, which I thought was really fun. And it actually turned out really, really great. I don't think there's a video of it anymore. I think it probably went away, but there is another video out there on the web, on YouTube, that features yours truly doing NFL combine drills, because I took last place last year, and I just had to drive 45 minutes to a campground where a whole bunch of people took some cell phone footage of this, and Alex did a really, really nice job. If I can find the link to that video, I will throw it in the description below so you guys can check that out and get a number of clicks. I'm also going to talk to Alex and see if he can hand me that video over, and we can throw it on the Victorious POD YouTube channel here, so you guys don't have to go far, and you guys can check that all out.
Definitely worth a watch. It was entertaining, to say the least. I got to give you credit for doing it and being a trooper, and performing better than I think most of us who are out of shape probably would have. So for those of you who haven't seen it, it's worth a watch.
Thank you. Yeah, I really had a lot of fun with it. I'm wondering how our audio is doing. I'm just gonna dial it back just a little bit. Okay. Let's talking about last year. Let's just go over the final standings real quick. Ben and Josh, they were in the championship. Is that right?
That is correct. Yep.
Ben was your champion. Josh was your first loser, followed by Ryan in 3rd place, Katie in 4th, Alex 5th, Tyler 6th, and then rounding up the last 6 was Cassie, Jay, Jordan, Foster, Jack, and then yours truly. But draft order this year had nothing to do with last year's standings. Like I said, we did a Super Smash Brothers tournament that basically determined what our draft picks were, and we will be going over all of our draft picks this year. But first, we're going to do a little segment called Baby, It's Bold Outside. And now, what this segment is it's going to be Jack and myself coming up with a few fantasy bold predictions for the 2020 season. They are bold predictions, so they're going to be way out there. They're probably be a little bit homerish, and they are probably going to make us look stupid, but that is the point of bold predictions. So, Jack, why don't you start it off with some of your bold predictions?
Yeah. Do you want me to go through all of mine, or do you want to do a back and forth kind of thing?
Just go ahead and list off all yours for now. That's fine.
All right. So we can get into them a little bit more in detail if we want after. But my first few, one of mine, I am really, really high on Philip Lindsay this year compared to where he's being drafted. So I had a prediction that Lindsay versus Melvin Gordon, who's the new guy that they brought in, Lindsay's actually going to have more yards total. I don't want to say that he's going to have more points because I think Melvin Gordon's going to get the red zone work, but I'm going to guess that Lindsay ends up getting more yards throughout the year, whether it's with injuries or what have you. Number 2, I had Daniel Jones. He's being listed as a huge breakout player this year in his second year. I'm not believing it. I think it's more due to the schedule than anything. I think he's a solid quarterback and will be good, but I don't see him being a top 12, fringe, top 14, 15 quarterback this year. So on the Danny Dimes hype. Another one I had was Gardner Minshew, who's being drafted as, I believe, the QB 26 he's not even drafted in most leagues, versus Josh Allen, who's the QB 10 roughly as ADP goes. I'm projecting that Minshew outscores Josh Allen this year, which is kind of a bold take for somebody that you could get off the waiver wire, but I'm not a huge believer in Josh Allen. I don't think Diggs is going to help as much as people think, and I think Minshew's going to have to throw a lot. A couple more, just kind of going over them quickly. Austin Hooper, the number 1 tight end from last year. I think he busts big time in Cleveland, and I think that Hayden Hurst, the guy they brought in Atlanta to replace him, is going to outscore him. And this is, we're talking the number 1 tight end versus the number 35 tight end last year. So total points, I've got Hurst over Hooper. Another one, Matt Stafford, who's a QB 14 in ADP. I think he's going to be a top 8 QB. I think he was on pace at least that last year when he got hurt, and he throws like crazy. They don't have a run game, as always, and he's going to bounce back big time. Last couple of ones I had were Michael Thomas, who he was the locked-in number 1 receiver last year. I don't think he's going to be number 1 or number 2. Number 1, that's not that big of a bold take. I think nobody really repeats that often, but I don't even see him in the top 2. I think Devontae Adams and Julio will be my 2 if I had to guess, but Michael Thomas is not going to bounce back as the number 1. And then
how far are you willing to go down?
Kelce, who was the tight end 1 last year. I don't think. What?
How far are you willing to go down on Michael Thomas? I think he's top 5.
I think he's still going to have a good year, but I'll be bold if he doesn't finish. Maybe he finishes 5th or below.
Okay. All right. That's bold.
And then last one, like I was saying, is Travis Kelce. I don't think he'll finish as the top 1 tight end, which doesn't sound like that much until you realize that he was the number 1 tight end in 2019, 18, 17, and 16. So I don't think he'll finish as number 1 this year.
Roger that. All right. Let's do this. So Jack, those are some takes for sure.
A little spicy.
Yeah. I'm guessing that the MT one out of all of those is probably the most likely. And then probably Hayden Hurst is the next one that I really, really liked and actually kind of agree with as well. All right, so we're going to get on over into my bold predictions of 2020. If you're ready for me to look stupid and sound stupid, here we go. Joe Burrow, he will be a quarterback 1. Now, when I say a quarterback 1, that means he will be a top 12 quarterback in our league. We have 12 teams, so QB1, he will be a top 12 quarterback. Dalvin Cook, here's the homer take. Warning, homer take. Dalvin Cook will play all 16 games this year, and to prove what he is worth, he will also finish as the leading rusher in the NFL, and I will just put it out there, he will be the number 1 fantasy running back in all of fantasy football. Rob Gronkowski, he comes back, and he will finish as a top 5 tight end. He loves Tom Brady. Tom Brady loves him. It's going to be the Tampa Bay Gronkaneers all season long. Brandon Cooks. This one here is by far my probably the most outlandish one. I think that Brandon Cooks will finish as a wide receiver 1. That is a top 12 wide receiver in fantasy this year. And wrapping up my ridiculous bold predictions, Stephon Diggs. He will have at least 12 touchdowns this season. That's a big one. That is definitely a big one. So, yes. All right. Now that we're done making ourselves look somewhat stupid, let's move on to My Guys. My Guys is a segment, if you are familiar with the fantasy footballers, they pick, I think, three guys.
Yep.
And they claim them as My Guys. Jack, you're the one who wanted to do this segment. You have the whole floor on this. Why don't you throw out some My Guys for your 2020 fantasy season?
Okay. So when I was going through trying to pick my favorites, I was trying to pick guys that, I'm trying to target in most league guys that are good value. Obviously, we can all say that CMC is a huge player and going to do well this year, but that doesn't really entail a My Guy to me. I feel like a My Guy is one that you're high on than most people, one that you would maybe take around ahead of others, and one that you think is going to way outperform their value. So my first one this year, I was selfish and picked somebody on my own team in our league. Granted, I had him on here before I drafted him because I was planning on targeting him all year. But DJ Chark is one of mine. As I mentioned a little bit ago with Gardner Minshew needing to throw the ball a lot. Chark is pretty much it. They don't have a standout tight end. They have a couple of pass-catching running backs, but they got rid of Fournette, so they're not really going to run the ball. Their defense has been completely dismantled, so they're going to have a lot of points scored against them, which means they're going to have to throw a lot as well. Chark was kind of a breakout already last year. He kind of came out of nowhere, and then he posted 1,000 yards and I believe 8 touchdowns. He was the wide receiver 16 on the year. But this year he's being drafted in the 5th to 6th round, which I just think is absurd. I get receivers really deep this year, but I just think that he's going to be a clear-cut number one option on a team that always is throwing, so he won't get game scripted out or low targets when they're ahead by a lot. He kind of runs the vertical routes, and he goes across the middle. He's the only red zone guy, so I just see him being extremely elite. He's drafted as the wide receiver 27, which means even if he only did exactly what he did last year and didn't improve, he's still going to be ahead by, 11 wide receiver spots. So I just see that there's incredible value here, and I think by the end of the year, he's a guy that could push for potential top 12 wide receiver 1 numbers. I don't think he'll quite get there, but I think he's going to be a lock for the early to mid-teens, like week to week with a safe floor. So I don't know if you want me to keep going or if you want to have thoughts on any of these as I go.
No, just keep going.
Okay. All right, I'll go number 2 here. I wanted to kind of go one for each position. Matt Stafford is my next one. As I kind of talked about before, I've touched on these a little bit. Stafford in the first 8 weeks of the year last year before he went down with injury for the rest of the year, he had 166 points. He, I believe in 5 out of 8 games, had at least 3 touchdowns, which is insane. Like, you just don't get that. I'm happy if I get 2 touchdowns a week from my quarterback. So 3 or 4 touchdowns. He's a guy that has always thrown a lot. Same kind of situation where their team is going to be bad and he's going to have to throw. There's the whole situation with them drafting Swift and Johnson flopping last year. Detroit's never really had a run game. And if anything, bring AP doesn't concern me at all because I just think they're going to throw more and more since they don't have that consistent, reliable option. He's got 2 stud receivers in Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay. He's got an up-and-coming tight end with TJ Hawkinson. He's being drafted as the QB 13 or 14 in some leagues, but I think he's just going to have such a safe floor with yards, potential for touchdowns. I know he doesn't run a lot, but he seems like another guy who could easily be a QB1 week to week and is either not being drafted or is everybody's bench player. So he's another one of mine where I'm seeing a lot of good things for him this year. And then my last guy, who is a guy that I was planning on taking in our league until I kind of lucked into someone else at his position, is the tight end. The new tight end for the Dallas Cowboys as the starter, Blake Jarwin. He is a guy that I think not a lot of people are thinking about. People have probably heard his name in different sleeper reports, but he's not one that you really probably feel safe and confident trusting to start week to week. But tight end's such a crapshoot as it is. I feel like behind the first couple of guys with Kelsey and Kittle, and then Andrews, Ertz are pretty solid too. Beyond that, the guy who finishes as number 5 could be a couple of points ahead of the guy who finishes 12. So if you're going to take a shot on somebody late, he is the clear-cut number 1 option. They got rid of Witten, and even when Witten was a shell of himself last year, he still got like 88 yards, I believe. So if you're going to give that to a guy who's much more athletic, a guy who is younger, who knows the offense, he's with them for a few years, and then they went and paid him for a 4-year contract, so Dallas sees a lot in him too. I just think that all points to really big things. Granted, they did draft CeeDee Lamb. They've got Amari Cooper. They've got Michael Gallup. They have Zeke. Dak runs the ball. So there's a lot of options here. So I don't think necessarily going to be a high yardage, 100 yards a week receiver as a tight end. But I think there's a lot of potential for touchdowns there. I think that's something that could carry him. And I think he will definitely be in the tight end 1 conversation. I would say top 10, in my opinion. So he is the last guy that I'm kind of putting my stamp on this year.
Right on, right on. That I have to admit that I did not have time to come up with my guys this year, but that's okay. We had a lot of work to do to get this prepped, and then it's just whatever. It's what happens. But whatever. So we are going to move on to what I think everybody's been waiting for in the in our draft recaps for sure. I know that's going to be a lot of fun. Jack, why don't we start it off again with you in what our draft recap was, and to make sure that we kind of get through this quickly, you have seen on our screen that we do have a cutoff clock. It's probably that way, whatever. I don't know which way I'm pointing. There's a cutoff clock, and we will have 30 seconds essentially to talk about each of the teams. And then after that 30 seconds, I mean, we're going to allow you to finish your sentence, obviously, but the main goal is to just make sure that we are staying on time with our podcast. So, Jack, why don't we take it away, and why don't you talk about my fantasy football team?
All right, go. Making me talk about you first. So you didn't mess up the first pick with CMC. I love that. He's basically a second quarterback worth of options for points every week. You should be able to get 15, 20 out of him easy. David Johnson makes me a little bit nervous as your second guy, just because he's been hurt a lot. He was pretty inefficient last year, but he could be solid in this new system. I like your wide receivers. I think they're very, very safe. I don't love your tight end, your quarterback this year, but Josh Allen has that safe floor of running, and then you stacking him with Diggs could be a big thing. Your bench has a lot of backups, so I think it could be troublesome with injuries, but if something breaks right, you could have a huge shot there. So I will give you a B+. How was that time?
That is fair. That is fair. That is a very, very fair point. Actually, let's see if I can do this here. Boom. All right, cool. So I am going to go with my 30 seconds on the clock here pretty quick. And then after I'm done, I will read Garlic's. And then next on the next team, you can read Garlic's as well. So my team, we're going to start the clock right meow. Go. All right, so my team. CMC, no doubt, will be a stud this year, but I have reservations about what David Johnson has left in the tank and what Cam Akers can do in his young, unproven career. Not sure what to make of my wide receivers as much as I love Mike Evans. There's this guy named Chris Godwin who's going to have an impact on Evans's numbers. I'm also banking on Robert Woods to see the end zone a little bit more, and hopefully Stephon Diggs, his new place in Buffalo. I give myself a B. Jack, do you think that's fair? Do you think I'm out of my mind? Yeah. How do you feel about my draft grade?
I think a lot of what we said lines up. I mean, I don't think you're being too much of a homer when you give yourself a lower draft grade than I do. So I think it's, contender, not a top team, but definitely I don't see you repeating as the loser punishment award winner this year.
I hope not, because I don't want to have to go through all that again. All right, so I'm going to read Garlic's draft grade here real quick, and then we are going to move on to a little fun throwaway. And it's not a throwaway segment, but we have a little bit of extra thing here that we're going to add to the draft grade review. So Garlic says, for me, CMC gives you a floor of a B. Congrats, you didn't F it up. I hate it. Evans at 25. So much better talent or more upside available still at that pick. Akers in the 4th is a reach as well. Woods on that swing is great though. Breida in the 7th is disgusting. Hooper and Allen are busts. You go no higher than your CMC floor. He gives me a B grade. And also when he sent me an email back with his draft grades, he also added a nice little postscript saying, F you, you're not making the playoffs. So that was nice of Garlic. Thank you very much. All right, so after this team now that we're done with all that, we have this little game called Sleeper. I barely know her. Actually, it's not a game, it's just a little segment. And it's essentially it's the same thing as Sleep, Marry, Kill, only we have it for fantasy purposes. We have it called Sleeper, Keeper, and Drop. Sleeper, Keeper, Drop. So Jack has named 3 players in the order of which he will sleep, he will sleep. The sleeper will be like a boomer bust. I think it's a boomer bust player. The keeper is the stud, and then the drop is obviously the the fluke of your team. So Jack, what was your SKD? What was your sleeper picks for my fantasy team?
Yeah. So for your team, sleeper, I guess just overall, I kind of envisioned more as a person that I'm higher on maybe than others, or one that I'm like, ooh, you got to pick him when you maybe wouldn't have.
Yeah, the sleeper.
So for your sleeper, I said Breida. I don't know if Garlic meant Breida in the seventh being disgusting, as in disgusting he was there, or disgusting that you took him. But I like him. I don't think there's any guarantee that Jordan Howard is the number one. And then for your keeper, the guy that I love, Robert Woods, he is the most consistent wide receiver in football. I think he's a lock, and he'll be a safe guy for you every week behind Evans question mark. And then your drop, I am just not a fan of Austin Hooper. I think he's going to flop, like I said earlier. So those are my three.
Okay. My three for my sleeper, I picked Darius Slayton. I think he will perform better than what most people think this year. CMC is my keeper. Obviously, he's my number one overall. It was kind of a lazy pick, but I had to pick it. And then I chose Matt Breida as my drop. I think I just picked him because I need a running back at this position, which is the terrible way of drafting. Saying I need this position, I might as well draft him at this spot. And Garlic in the chat says that it is disgusting that I took him in general. So I'm sure he is agreeing with my drop. All right, so now we are going to move on to Alex's team. Jack, why don't you start with Alex's review of his team?
All right, we're off. Starting with Saquon, made the right choice at 2. Coming back and getting Lamar in the 2-3 turn, I think Saquon and Lamar is a crazy, scary floor. I think you'll have a lot of points week to week and be in it either way. Out on Singletary is your RB2. I don't love him this year. I don't think he's going to be used like he should be, even though he's a good player. With Moss and Diggs being brought in, and then Josh Allen stealing rushes. If AJ Green's healthy, though, he's going to be a monster. I really, really like him this year, so I think that was a solid pick, and your receivers could be dominant. Kareem Hunt feels like a safe flex, but I don't know that he's going to go off many weeks. He's kind of capped by Chubb, so unless Chubb gets hurt or doesn't play well. Gibson, however, getting Antonio Gibson on your bench was a huge pick, and he could easily be your number 2 running back. N'Keal Harry should be big this year too, with the Patriots cutting Sanu and not having a lot of other options and Cam throwing. So I think you're a B and probably right around the same tier as Walters for me.
Boom. All right, so I would agree with your takes. I thought they were pretty on par with kind of what I said. I had just a little bit different stuff, and here I go. We will do this. All right, so Alex, I'm going to start my timer. I forgot to start my timer. Alex, I like that Alex used his first 3 picks to go get a tier 1 player at the respective positions. However, he decided to either draft 2 old wide receivers in Larry Fitzgerald and AJ Green. Also, AJ Green is coming off a 2019 season-ending injury. Also, for his wide receivers, he decided to draft unproven rookies. Bold move. Alex, however, did draft a deep running back class to hopefully use in his flex spot. I gave his draft grade. His draft grade was a B+. So, that wasn't too terrible. I'll just read Garlic's here real quick. Garlic says, "You are praying Saquon and Lamar score 50 points a week, aren't you?" Question mark. Actually, I don't think I need to add the question mark, but I did anyway. It's fun. I hate where you drafted literally everyone else on your team. Good luck, bub. Grade D. Alex just getting no respect from Garlic. As one of Alex's rivals, I can say, suck at Alex. I think that's kind of funny. But yeah, so Alex not doing too well. Jack, what is your SKD for Alex's team?
SKD, sleeper, Antonio Gibson, like I mentioned. I think that's a huge pickup for you. Keeper, I love AJ Green. I think he's going to have a good year. He's a wide receiver 1 when he's healthy. And drop Singletary, just not feeling it in that offense. Too many other weapons, and they drafted Zach Moss.
Okay, my SKD for my sleeper, I have Kareem Hunt. I think he will do better than what people thought. Kenny Galladay is my keeper, and then I'm dropping Larry Fitzgerald. I think there are too many weapons out there in Arizona, so I'm not having any part of Larry Fitzgerald this year. All right, we're going to be moving on here. We've got Josh's squad. Josh, Jack, what's going on, man? Why don't you let Josh know what you thought of his team?
Yeah, so last year's runner-up, I think he is going to make a good push for this year. Lots of people are down on DeAndre Hopkins, but I think you getting him at 22 was just too good of a value to mess up, so you made the right call. Pairing Mahomes with him and Zeke gives you a crazy, insane floor, so I think you're going to also be in it every single week with those three. Your RB2 is hurt a little bit after Ronald Jones with Fournette coming to town, but Dobbins could be a beast by midseason, so that might fill in the blanks for you. Looks like one of the safest teams by far. Love the Boston Scott pick at the end of your draft, but then other than that, I don't see your bench doing a lot. So you're going to have to rely on your safe starters. I give them a B+.
Right on. Alrighty. Moving on, I have for Josh. If you thought 3 tier 1 players was good for Alex, how do you feel about 4 tier 1 players? Well, that's what Josh did on his first 4 picks. Congratulations, Josh. Unfortunately, after those first 4 players, I don't really like the rest of his team. He doesn't have a decent running back, too, and I feel like his flex spot is just going to be a carousel of players. He's going to be on the waiver wire constantly this year. I gave your draft a B. I'll read Garlic's because I think it's fun. This is from Garlic. Your first 3 rounds look nice. I'm not high on Hop, but he was certainly best available wide receiver. Probably fine value for Andrews, but I'm fading him and his diabetes this year. The rest of your draft looks fine, good value, except for me. Cole went too early, in my opinion. This is probably Josh's team, so go back to 5 and 8 where you belong. Draft grade B+. So I just wanted to let you know that when Garlic was doing these, I didn't give him any names on the draft board. They were all blurred out, so it was a third person who had no ties to our league, and he had no idea whose team was whose, so it was a completely unbiased draft review from Garlic. Jack, what's your SKD for Josh's team?
Yeah, SKD, I had Deontay Johnson was my sleeper. I think he could be the number 2, a solid option in Pittsburgh, and he could even easily become the number 1 target option. Keeper, J.K. Dobbins, I think you're going to need him down the stretch, and he should be a beast by mid-year in that rushing offense. And drop Ronald Jones. I liked the pick at the time, but now just with everything else that's transpired in Tampa Bay, not going to do it for you.
Right on. For me, for Josh's SKD, I picked Allen Lazard as the sleeper, Ezekiel Elliott, you are my keeper, and Ronald Jones, I'm dropping you. So there is that. All right, we are ready to move on to the next team. Our next team up is going to be Tyler. Jack, tell me, what do you think about Tyler's team?
Tyler's team, I say this every year, but Carson is so underrated each and every year that it hurts. So he is a great RB2 for you, especially in the late second round. Your wide receivers are a little gross to me with Gallup. I do like him over Mike Cooper, but I just don't see him as a number 1 option. And Marvin Jones is kind of a gross boomer bust option. So I feel like they're more of like a wide receiver 2 and 3 combo versus a 1 and 2. I actually like Debo more. So I think that was a great pick, and he could easily end up being a better fantasy option for you than either one. Russ and Kill are really, very safe, and they're solid. But DeAndre Swift, I think, was a way too early reach, and I don't see him being good enough to help out with your weakness at wide receivers. So I said C+.
Right on, right on. All right. So for me...
Also, am I coming through okay on your end?
Yeah, I can hear you. I mean, you're a little choppy from time to time, but I mean, we'll have to try and work on that or figure something out or do something different. But for now, we are rolling with it. All right. So, Tyler, this is my review of your team. All right. So we've got... I like your starting running backs, Tyler. And you potentially could have your flex spot set all year if DeAndre Swift proves and gets majority of the work. I'm coming through, I think, from you. So,
okay, try again.
All right, so I'm just gonna start over real quick. All right, we're gonna go over again. All right, so Tyler, I like your starting running backs, and you potentially could have your flex spot set if DeAndre Swift proves that he deserves and gets, that's key, majority of the work there in Detroit. However, I feel your biggest receiving threat is George Kittle, and worse, your whole wide receiver group that you drafted is second best on their respective teams' depth charts. I believe you'll be looking for a wide receiver all season, and I gave your team a C. Moving on to Garlic. Cook and Carson is a great first and second round. Swift in the fourth is asinine. You should have grabbed a wide receiver instead. Russell Wilson went too early as well. Your wide receivers will hold you back all year unless people ahead of them on the depth chart go down. He gives you a C plus for his grade. Jack, can you tell me what your SKD is for Mr. Tyler?
Yeah, kind of touched on all three of them already, but my sleeper is Debo. I think getting him where you did is great value considering the dude might already start week 1 and he's the number 1 option. I'm just a little concerned about you having him and Kittle together, but you took the best player. Keeper, Chris Carson, love him every year, and getting him in the late second is just an awesome value for potentially RB1. And then drop is DeAndre Swift. I didn't like him before the AP signing, and I just thought you took him too early. You just needed a running back.
All right, and my SKD for Tyler's team, my sleeper is John Brown, my keeper is Michael Gallup, and Darrell Henderson is my drop. All right, moving on. We've got Foster's team. Jack, tell me, what did you think about Foster?
I love Foster. I love his team. This team looks really good top to bottom. I was surprised at the time you went Derrick Henry at 5 because I thought I was going to have to make the decision whether to take him at 8. But he feels like a really safe option in non-PPR. I'm not as high on Melvin Gordon, kind of like I talked about with Lindsey. But your 3 wide receivers are insane, and having Hayden Hurst is a great option because he's one of my favorite breakout tight ends. That plus Brady, which I'm biased, which should be a big year for him, and then Montgomery being underrated with volume and Jordan Howard on your bench sets you up great. I don't love seeing that you took a backup tight end and a quarterback, but you had solid depth either way at both other spots, so should be a top contender, and I said A-.
Right on. For Foster, overall Foster's team is the most complete. He has 2 big-time wide receivers, and hoping that Scary Terry can not only match what he did last year, but build on it as well. Let's see here. I love Derrick Henry, and if Matt Stafford can stay healthy, he should finish in top 10 for quarterbacks. I think Foster is a lock for the playoffs. He is my favorite team by far. I gave him an A+. Moving on to Garlic's pick. Garlic says, I would have taken Kamara or CH here instead. That's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Hill or Godwin going before Julio is criminal. So great steal for you in the second. I'm not sold on Gordon this year, so I worry about your running back 2 will be in flux all year, but keep McLaurin in the flex. Stafford bailing out up top. Brady in the 8th. Are you dumb? And you should at least coast to a playoff berth. Garlic gives Foster a B+. I need some water.
So I'm going to go into my SKD.
Roger.
For Foster, kind of touched on these people already, but Hurst is my sleeper. I think he's going to do big things for you as your tight end. McLaurin, keeper. He's the number 1 option. He should be a stud this year. And then drop, there weren't a lot of people I wanted to drop on your team, but I just said Gordon for not being as high on him as his ADP is.
For my SKD for Foster's team, my sleeper was Curtis Samuel. Hayden Hurst is my keeper, and David Montgomery is the guy that I would drop. All right, let's move on to Katie's team. Jack, what do you got for Katie?
So Katie's team kind of was ceiling for me after Foster's. I thought his team was crazy high safety and floor. Katie's team makes me nervous. I think Kamara at 6 was a great start since I didn't think he'd fall down to there. And then your second round pick was with Kelsey. And then DJ Moore is also a solid third round pick. But then from there, it just kind of got shaky for me. Jonathan Taylor as your RB2 makes sense since he has huge upside this year, but I'm worried it's going to take him a while into the year to get going or be given the chance to. Hollywood Brown's very boomer or bust as a wide receiver too, so that worries me. I'm not loving your bench and depth, so I think you're going to be in a hole early with waiting for JT to break out. So it's a C for me. But I love you.
Yeah, so for me, I feel like Katie went with a really high-risk, high-reward type of strategy when it came to drafting her team. I would guess that she thinks DJ Moore and Marquise Brown will both ascend to wide receiver 1 status, which I think will be tougher for Brown than it is for Moore. She is also hoping for her quarterback, Danny Dimes, to have a fantastic sophomore season. She did draft some stability in Travis Kelce, DJ Moore, and Alvin Kamara. If I was giving letter grades for bold strategies, Katie would get an A+, but overall, I just gave her team a C. Garlic, he said, a fine first 3 picks. Kamara at 6 is a bit lucky considering Michael Thomas was not off the board yet. No huge steals, no boneheaded moves either. The choice of JT, Mostert, or Edmonds as my RB2 makes me sick. You undoubtedly love to gamble. However, some combination of Fuller, Hollywood, and now wide receiver 1 Ruggs in the flex should provide plenty of potential. Overall, a high floor team, but unlikely to make the ship. Danny Dimes is leading the charge drops you a bit too. Lastly, 3 tight ends is such a waste, and he gives you a B-. Jack, what is your SKD for Katie's team?
SKD sleeper, I went Henry Ruggs. I think he has an upside to become maybe your wide receiver 2, be number 1 in a bad offense or a bad team. Keeper, DJ Moore, I think it was between him and Kelsey, but they're both great picks there. And then drop, I said a combo of Fant and Hawkinson just as your backup tight ends behind Kelsey. You just didn't need them when you had other spots to fill.
Okay, for me, I went Henry Ruggs as well as the sleeper. DJ Moore is my keeper, and Sterling Shepard is my drop in there. All right, we are going to be moving on to Jay's team here. Jack, why don't you tell me about Jay's team?
Yeah, Jake went wide receiver heavy, big time at the start of the draft, which is usually the opposite strategy for me. But his team does not look as bad as you'd think, considering that happened, and he basically lost his 3rd-round pick. Le'Veon Bell and Sony Michel look gross on paper, and they're pretty low upside picks this year, but I think they're both at least flex options just on volume alone. So if any of us are wrong on them, they could be better than we would have thought. Tyler should have a great year as a QB, but I think you just took him a little bit too early when you needed better depth at other spots. And then taking a wasted pick on Rodgers when you already reached for a QB early seemed like an odd option to me. Don't love the bench options. Prior to the Fournette move, I could have maybe seen this as like a fringe playoff team, but now I'm not so sure, so I gave you a C.
All right, Jay, for your team, I thought if you thought Foster's wide receiver core was scary, don't look at Jay's. I love Michael Thomas into Chris Godwin, followed up by the up-and-coming Cortland Sutton. Jay rounds out his team with 2 running backs that are on a scale that ranges from disaster or to decent with Leonard Fournette and Le'Veon Bell. I just don't know what to make of those players this year. To make matters a bit more troubling, he might not find much running back help on his bench. Overall, I gave his draft a B-. Moving on to Garlic. MT at 7 is fine. Following up with Godwin is probably foolish, though. Fournette and Bell holding down the running back room. It must be 2017. Sutton is a good flex value, I suppose. I don't see the squad doing much this year. He gives Jay a C-. Jack, what is your SKD for Jay?
Sleeper is a little bit of a surprise. I picked Sony Michel, and not because I think he's going to have a good year, but you just got him so late, and he could end up being your RB2 at this point with Fournette dropping. Keeper, Cortland Sutton. I think that was a solid pick after two scary wide receivers as your third guy. And then drop Rodgers, Kyler Murray.
For me, my SKD for Jay's team was I'm sorry. Yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. Brandon Cooks is my sleeper. Kyler Murray is my keeper, and Sony Michel is my drop. All right, Jack, we're doing your team now, huh? Let's have you talk about your team.
I love talking about myself. This is perfect. I love my first two picks going into the draft. My whole strategy was if I can get RB back to back, then I'd be happy. Jacobs, I think, should have a great second year, and Mixon at 17 seemed like great value, especially after signing the contract. Then I went really safe at wide receiver, one with Allen Robinson, and then because I had that, I was between Odell versus Robert Woods, but I went kind of more high upside with Odell, and then backed it up with DJ Chark, one of my top value guys, as a backup. I only took Ertz because he dropped smart, but otherwise I went RB heavy with startable flex options, and then late stage QBs with Ryan and Wentz. So I think I'm a fringe playoff team at B+.
All right, Jack, you pretty much broke yourself up throughout that whole thing. So, I'm gonna try and read.
Excellent.
I'm gonna try and read yours to the fans so that you can actually have a review on your team.
That'd be great.
You said that you loved your first picks of running back. Jacobs should have a big second year, and Mixon at 17 seems like great value to me. That's to Jack, especially after his contract signing. He got one of the safest wide receivers as his number one, which allowed me to take some chances with my number two. But the unknown of OBJ, which is why I went Shark in the first place, this is why he... I'm sorry. He says, but the unknown of OBJ is why he is a backup. Only went tight end early due to Ertz slipping a little bit. Otherwise, he went with an RB heavy bench with, I think, a startable flex options. Also loved my late value of Matt Ryan and Carson Wentz this year at quarterback. I should make the playoffs at least, he says, and he gives his team a B+. All right, so here is my review of Jack's team here. Jack, your first 6 picks this year in the draft consist of high floor players with 2 high risk players. OBJ and Ertz are being your risk takers. I love Josh Jacobs and Joe Mixon, and I feel you drafted value in Matt Ryan in round 13. I also feel that you drafted players on your bench that can help you out in a pinch. I gave you a B+ overall. Garlic. This is what Garlic has to say. Jacobs to Mixon is good. A-Rob in the third is fine as well. I'm not sold on OBJ, but following up with Chark is good insurance. Ertz and Lindsey in 6 and 7, round 6 and 7 are okay, but I wouldn't have taken Coleman or Duke where you did. Matty Ice in the 11th is sweet. Should be playoff bound. B+ grade from Garlic. Jack, what's your SKD on your team?
We'll see if this comes through. My sleeper was Matt Ryan. Like Garlic mentioned, getting him as late as I did. I love that safety, high upside option at quarterback. Keeper is DJ Chark. Just went on him this year, so if I'm wrong, I'm going to be super embarrassed. And then drop Rashad Perriman. I kind of just took him because I needed a receiver. I don't really love that pick.
Okay. I actually didn't know really what to do for sleeper, keeper, and drop on your team. It was the most difficult of all the teams that I did.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
So I picked Bashard Perriman as your sleeper, DJ Chark as your keeper, and Tevin Coleman as your drop. So a little bit different than what you thought with your team. And for those, I forgot to change the the roster up on the screen, but that's not a big deal. People got to look at it here, but it's up here now. People are looking at it, and we're gonna move on to Ryan now. So, Jack, tell me what you think about Ryan's squad.
CEH in the first is obviously the biggest question mark, but I like him at 9 at that point. Pairing him with Gurley, you could go one of two ways, either giving you the top number 1, 2 running back punch, or you could have them both flop and not amount to much. So I probably would have gone stronger running back backup options. I love Devontae at 16. I was going to take him right after when you took him. So him and Lockett seems like a safe wide receiver pair. And then Devontae Parker and Tyler Boyd backing that up is great, but I feel like you needed running back help more. Lots of rookies on your bench when I feel like you needed stability, so that worries me. Herndon as a late tight end pick is good, but Burrow as your only quarterback also worries me. So there's too many question marks for my taste. B-.
Roger that.
Did that work?
Right. Yeah, that worked out. That worked out great.
Only my team that cuts out.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, man. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry, dude. And it doesn't look like our graphics are working anymore either, so I'm just going to switch over to this here. Actually, it's the same thing. I don't know. I'm going to have to try and get it back up later. So, all right. My response to Ryan's draft was, when talking about risk, let's look at Ryan's team. He drafted 6 rookies. Two of them were running backs, 3 rookie wide receivers, and a rookie quarterback. 2 out of those 6 players will definitely be in the starting lineup week 1. I don't like how Ryan's running backs come with a lot of risk. And the biggest thing going for Ryan's team is his fantastic wide receiver set that he has. Overall, I hated his team. I gave him an F. For his draft, the only F in the draft, and it went to Ryan.
Is that because you took your first name, or?
Well, I was born first, so yeah, he did take my first name.
Yeah.
Jerk. All right, let's see what Garlic has to say. Garlic says CH this year is this year's biggest question mark, but definitely has top running back potential. Adams in the second is nice. You've got a fine group of running back and wide receiver starters, but I genuinely have no idea how you're going to decide your flex each week, and my brain hurts for you. Herndon should not be your tight end. Go pick up someone like Jarwin, Goddard, Ebron, or even Dan Arnold. This team is rolling the dice with 2 high-profile rookies, but assuming it pays off, you could end up in the ship. He gives Ryan an A grade. I can't believe it. Why in the hell would you give Ryan an A grade? His team is by far the riskiest. What is your SKD for Ryan's team?
Really quick, my sleeper was Herndon, just because you got him that late. Keeper is Lockett. I think he's in that safety tier of Allen Robinson and Robert Woods. I think he's consistent. And then drop is Burrow. You can't drop him because he's your only quarterback, but I just think you needed different or better options there.
My SKD for Ryan was, my sleeper was Zach Moss, my keeper was Tyler Lockett, and my drop was Todd Gurley. We are going to be moving on to Jordan's team. Jack, what did you think about Jordan's team?
Jordan's team took the strategy they love with 2 top running backs first. They're both a little bit unproven before last year, really, with Sanders and Eckler, but they should have every chance to be bell cows in their new team or in their teams this year. I'm surprised you went Eckler over Adams just with the safety, but then you came back and had 2 solid wide receiver options next. So I actually see Juju being your better wide receiver than Calvin Ridley, but I get Ridley with the upside. I just think Juju could be a top option with Big Ben back this year. Mark Ingram and Marlon Mack also seem like great options to start the year. It depends on the rookie takeover, but they should get you off to a hot enough start where you might have enough of a lead to make the playoffs anyway. Keenan Allen on the bench is insane. He could even be your number 1 wide receiver. And then double stacking Big Ben and Breeze as QBs. They could both be QB1s by the end of the year. Very, very scary team. Should be a top contender. A-.
Roger that. For Jordan's team, I said Darren Waller and Rob Gronkowski. Yes, please. I believe Jordan will be able to start both of these tight ends in his lineup every week. Your running backs are okay, but pairing them together seems risky. And I don't like the pairings of wide receivers that you have. Individually, I'd take a shot on one of those, but not both of them. I gave Jordan's team a C overall. Let's move over to what Garlic has to say. Garlic says Sanders and Eckler are probably both taken right around their value, but it is certainly a pretty meh pick for RB1 and 2 for me. Dog, D-A-W-G, that's how he spelt it. Ridley is great after that, and I think that you'll find that Keenan in your 2 spot for Juju, then for Juju this year. Juju, Ingram, Mac for your flex is a great pool to pick from. Waller in the back of the 7th does the rest of the league. Waller in the back of the 7th? Does anybody else in the league know he exists? A series of dart throws on high upside guys after that, and at least one is likely to hit that bullseye. I'll project you to start Goff more than Breeze, but with the rest of the value you got, who cares? It's a top 4 team for sure. Garlic gives Jordan an A-. Jack, what is your SKD on Jordan's team?
S sleeper was Marlon Mack. Not that he's much of a sleeper. We already know what he can do, but I just think people are undervaluing him versus the new shiny toy of Taylor. I think Mack will start off the year really hot. Sleeper, I like Juju. I think he's going to be a solid option for you this year and bounce back from his disappointing 2019. And then drop, I like both your tight ends. I just didn't think you need both when you're taking a top 5 tight end. So I probably would have not taken Gronk or just waited on tight end and gone Gronk only.
Right on. My SKD for Jordan was Rob Gronkowski was my sleeper, Mark Ingram was my keeper, and I'm dropping Keenan Allen. Moving on to Ben. Jack, what do you got to say for Ben?
Another very balanced team. You can see the theme of me liking teams that go RB first, just because I think it's a lot less deep this year. That was just the smart way to go. Nick Chubb and Aaron Jones are both solid beasts. I think Jones will regress a little bit with touchdowns, but just with Hunt being involved, but I think both of them are going to be great, consistent options. I don't love Amari. I think he's very boom and bust. Plus, there's a lot of other options in Dallas, but he could still end as a top 10 tight end. Metcalf's behind Lockett, but he should be a big step forward, and I think A.J. Brown will actually finish higher than him. Cook is a tight end or touchdown-dependent tight end, but I love Deshaun Watson this year. Worried about your bench with depth, but I think your starters are good enough to carry you if there's no injuries. So I said B+.
All right. Let's see here. Well, a little too far. We got Ben's team back up so people can look at them. Sorry about that on the stream. I'm just trying to get that all situated. It was bugging me. All right. So for Ben's team, I'm going to start the timer too. I got this thing. I might as well try and use it. All right. So when I look at Ben's team, my eyes light up. I see Deshaun Watson, Aaron Jones, Nick Chubb, Amari Cooper, Jared Cook, and all these players look great together in a starting lineup. He also drafted depth at wide receiver and at running back to be able to step in when needed to be. I would be absolutely shocked if Ben did not make the playoffs. I give Ben an A grade. Let's see what Garlic has to say. I'm actually going to change this back over here too. Doop 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 doop. All right, you can see both of us. Cool. Hi. All right, so Garlic says Chubb and Jones is slightly more meh for me than the last group, as I see both regressing this year, but running backs are big in fantasy, and you lock down 2 of the top-ranked ones. A rock-solid core of receiver follows them, and with Watson, all of these starters look picturesque and probably a wild card squad. I hate Cook as your tight end. Personal bias. See the previous list of others I'd rather have. Jefferson, McKinnon, and LaMichael Perrine, either you know something we don't, or you had some dank kush on the way in of your draft. You must not turn over your bench often. He gave Ben a B+. Jack, what's your sleeper keeper drop for Ben's team?
Sleeper, I said Chris Thompson, just with the unknown of the 4 netless Jaguars backfield. Keeper A.J. Brown, him as your 3rd wide receiver, I think is an amazing pick. And drop is Carry On. I think if not before the AP signing, definitely now. I just think Carry On's not what we thought he was.
Okay, and for me, my SKD for Ben's team was DK Metcalf was the sleeper, Jared Cook was my keeper, and I'm dropping Jerick McKinnon. All right, we are going to be moving on to our final team that we are drafting, or that was drafted, and that is Cassie's team. Jack, what do you have to say about Cassie's team?
Starting off, I don't love the Kenyon Drake pick versus some other running backs here, like Chubb, Mixon, Eckler. I think all I would have felt better about. But he was a solid top 10 option apparently this year, and I think our beats are more important. Terry Kill should finish as top 5 wide receiver again, but I just hate the boomer bust picks with wide receivers where some weeks he gets you 17 yards and the other weeks he gets you 3 touchdowns and 100. So those could win or lose you the weeks. You stole Cooper Kupp from me a couple of picks before I was going to take him, who I love, so I think that was a great pick. Very high on James Conner, too, this year, who, if he's healthy, I think he's an RB1. Your top 4 guys all have chances to be one, which is when most teams can say in our league, so I think that's solid. Dak should be a top 5 option again. I'm worried about Hunter Henry and T.Y. Hilton's health, so if either of them get hurt like they always do, you might be in trouble. I like the Tree Cohen and Jules picks, Julian Edelman, but I don't see a lot of other upside on your bench. So I feel like this is a fringe playoff team, and if injuries happen, it could knock you out. So C+ for me.
All right, for me, Cassie's starting running backs are decent, although I'm uneasy about Connor, and it doesn't help that her running back depth is thin either. She makes up for it by having a great wide receiver set by drafting Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp, along with drafting good wide receiver depth. And we can't forget about her quarterback, Dak Prescott. Overall, I gave her team a B-. Moving on to what Garlic had to say about Cassie's team. Hill and Drake are easily my least favorite first 2 picks. Both Jones, Adams, and Eckler. So much more could have been done here. He hates Kupp too, but Connor is your first pick that I like. Back to hating you. Dak too close in the Dak to close the 5th. Why? If this is Jack, I'm disappointed, but at least he is on brand. The rest of your draft is pretty melancholy on a technicality. You do have a chip and a chair, but unfortunately for you, that it's a potato chip. Better luck next year, pal. Garlic gave Cassie a D+. Ouch. All right, so Jack, can you tell me what is your SKD for Cassie's team?
Yeah, sleeper, homer pick, but Julian Edelman, I think he's going to get targeted a lot with Cam in the offense and cutting Sanu. He's one of the only guys that's returning as a safe option from last year. Keeper, Connor, I think, like I said, the only thing standing in the way of him and being top 10 is an injury. So if not, he's a great pick for you in the 4th. And then drop, I think a combo of Jack Doyle and Kirk Cousins. You didn't need either of them, and I just don't think either of them are even high upside options.
All right, for me, my SKD for Cassie's team, my sleeper is Hunter Henry. I think he's going to do better than what people project him to do this year. My keeper is my love, Dak Prescott. I love him as a fantasy quarterback. And my drop is James Conner. I don't want anything to do with James Conner. That is pretty much it for all of our draft teams. I can't believe it, Jack. We got it. We got through it.
Oh
we got through it.
In
A decent amount of time. Not bad, not bad. You did some work that I had no idea about. I never was even a part of this. Jack, why don't you tell me what you did after we were done with our draft?
Yeah. So I kind of came up with this off of us doing our own draft grades, and then ESPN does that little like final league projected standings things that always seems way off and no one knows how it works. So I was curious just if we did like a blind ranking of all of our league members who everybody viewed as like the top contenders. So I texted, I believe, all of you and asked for just like, hey, give me your top 2 or 3 teams that you love like the day after the draft and then your bottom teams. So I kind of compiled a poll of all these, and I'm just going to read them off quickly. Do with it what you want, but at least you don't have to just take our word for who the top teams are looked at. Best teams, there was a tie of 4 votes for Josh's team, Tyler and Jordan. Next, we had 3 votes each from myself and Ben. Alex and Walters had 2 votes, and then Foster had 1. So if your name wasn't called, you weren't picked as a top team. I'm sorry.
I didn't vote either.
Team,
I just want to let you know the Walters vote. So there are 2 people in the league who think that I have one of the best teams, and I'm ecstatic.
That is true. That is true. Neither of us voted because I wanted to just keep it impartial, and I figured I'd talk enough about my own team. So kind of fun to just see, there's a good variety of people up there. Team score tie between Katie, Cassie, Alex, and Ryan with 1. You only had 1 vote, so I wouldn't let your feelings there too much because it's not like you had 6 votes or anything, which is what the first worst team was, with Jay having 6 people in the league. So 6 out of 10 with us 2 not voting, saying that was your worst team, probably with the Fournette news. So I'm sorry.
Jeez, ouch. That is definitely tough. Okay, so it's time to predict the playoffs. Based off of our draft, each of us and Garlic did this too, so that's really awesome. Jack, Jack, what are your 6 picks? And please pick a Super Bowl favorite.
Yeah. In no order, I just kind of went off of overall. I didn't want to rank you guys, but I said Jordan, Ben, Foster, Walters, I'm selfish, so myself, and Josh, my 6 favorites. And I see the Super Bowl being Foster versus Jordan. I will give the edge to Foster because Jordan has enough championships in our league.
Right on. For my playoff picks, I have Foster, Ben, Alex, Jack, and myself. I have Foster versus Ben in the Super Bowl, and I believe Foster will be your Super Bowl champion. Garlic has Garlic has Jordan, Ben, Ryan, Foster, Ben, and Josh. I did that twice.
He has Ben.
I had Ben twice. Shoot. Let's see. Who drafted right before Ben? Jordan. Nope. Jordan.
Well, he has Jordan twice. Garlic,
I really messed this up. Okay.
He has
I
team
believe
3, 5, 8, 9, 10, and 11 in that draft order.
Oh my God! Hold on, I have it right here.
Oh, the one that's not on there is me. I'm team 8.
Are you team 8?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So Ryan is team 9. Ryan is team 9. So
yeah,
he has. Okay. So he has Ryan, Ben, Jack, Foster,
Jordan, and Josh.
Okay.
Yeah.
He has. He has Jordan, team 10. Jordan being the champion of our league, with Ryan being the first loser. So Garlic thinks Jordan is going to win the ship. So we have let's see here. Who did you pick to win against
what's weird is between the 3 of our picks, there's only 3 teams. So mine is Jordan versus Foster, yours is Foster versus Ben, and Garlic's is Ben versus Jordan. So
no, Jordan versus Ryan.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Ryan's the newcomer.
Yeah, Ryan's the newcomer.
So we both have Foster as the winner.
We both have Foster, so 2 votes for Foster, 1 vote for Jordan as our Super Bowl favorites this year. Jack, we're going to finish it up with this draft stuff with some draft awards that you came up with. What do you got for your draft awards?
Yeah. So this is kind of something I do in my own head every year, just because I think it came from me usually picking running backs with my first 2 picks, and I'm always like, yeah, I got the best running backs. So it usually doesn't pan out that way. But I decided to kind of take a look at position by position, who the front runners were for each spot. So running backs and receivers, I just went straight up best 1-2 combo. But quarterbacks and tight end, I went value, since a lot of us wait on quarterbacks, and obviously it's pretty easy to pick Mahomes or Lamar. So I went more of a value thing. So my draft award for best quarterback value, I gave it to Jordan, and the runner-up was you, Walters. Jordan, I said Breeze getting him in the 11th when he's just a beast year in and year out. And then Big Ben undrafted. We still have them could be QB1s. And then Walters, you getting Josh Allen in the 11th, though I don't love him. He was the QB6 last year, so I think you got him really, really late at a good value. Best running backs, I kind of highlighted them in the draft grades, but 3 of the teams that went RB, 1, 2, I just don't think you can compete if you didn't take them in the top 2 picks. So me with Josh Jacobs and then Joe Mixon, who I believe is a first-round running back that I got in the second. Ben doing Nick Chubb and Aaron Jones, 2 very similar players that have a lot of high volume and yards year to year. And then Jordan with Miles Sanders and Austin Eckler. Those are probably like the least safe of our 3, but they should have every opportunity this year too. Best wide receiver 1 and 2 punch. Jay with starting off Michael Thomas and Godwin, who I don't love, but following that up with Sutton, I think is really, really solid. And then another one I really, really loved was Foster with Julio, who is my number 2, 3 wide receiver this year. I think he's underranked. And then Thielen, who should be a wide receiver 1 again now that he's healthy. And Terry McLaurin is kind of your backup there. Best tight end value, I was biased towards myself. I think just the fact that I didn't plan on taking Ertz and I didn't want to, but him, he's supposed to be the 3 to 4 tight end and going in like the late 4th, early 5th. He fell to late or middle 6th when I just had to take him. He went 20 picks after Mark Andrews did, so I think that just highlights I like Andrews better too, but there comes a point where Ertz was really, really good value. But then I would have given real award probably for tight ends to Foster, taking Hayden Hurst in the 10th round, who I think is going to end up as possibly top 6, 7 tight end option. You got him really late while also loading up on the rest of your team, and it shows with how consistent your team is. And then I did an award for best bench just as far as the most realistic options that can actually help your team and can step in when you need them to. I gave it to Josh, Alex, and Foster. I think you guys actually have benches that can enhance your team throughout the year. So those are my draft awards.
Right on. Thanks, Jack. Thank you for all the work that you put in for doing that. That was really awesome. That is actually going to wrap up all of our draft recap. It is all over with. It was awesome. It was long, but it was great. I mean, I absolutely, I thought it went really well. So a few things that we're going to mention before we wrap up the show. We've got our Guillotine League. Most of our league members in the Victoria's Secret are playing in the Guillotine League. We just had our draft, and I have to say that is the worst draft that I have ever had. I absolutely hate my team. 17 teams in the league, and it's just like, I when I started filling up my bench, I'm like, I don't even know who the hell I'm drafting. I'm taking just dart throws, players I've never even freaking heard of. So that was a lot of fun. Jack, are you looking forward to the Guillotine League?
I am. I've never played it before, and I think it could be a lot of fun. I was talking to Jordan about it the other night, and I'm just praying that I don't lose in week 1 or 2, because then it's over. It doesn't matter. So I think the longer you go, the more intense and fun it's going to be. And it's something new, something fun to try. Yeah,
those first few weeks are really going to be I think it's going to be intense, because once a player or 2 players is finally cut, like, then people are just going to scramble right to the waiver wire to try and pick up those players. And I think it's just going to be a mad frenzy the first few weeks. And so, you really got to be on top of that to be able to get it done. Let's talk a little bit about our Dynasty League that Alex is running. Deflate these balls. It has me, you, Alex, it's got Josh in it, Garlic, a fan favorite of our show, he's a part of that league too. Tyler's in it. Am I missing anybody else who's in that league with us? Foster's in it. Yep. Foster's in it.
We're probably forgetting one person, but I forget.
So we're going to talk a little bit about it, especially when I play Jack in our Dynasty Empire League, so we'll be able to hear that. One thing that I did want to make sure that I mentioned for people is that we are doing a game this year for our fantasy league. It is a fantasy pick'em. It is $10 to join it, and I'm just doing it to league members because they can see our league, and it's just, I don't know if it would work for fans to be able to do it, but we will do updates on that because this podcast and stream is for the league members, and so we will be definitely featuring that game in our podcast. We did not get to it today because we wanted to focus on draft recap, and this episode has gone 15 minutes longer than I thought it would already, which is fine, but no big deal. We will be having another podcast and stream on this Saturday, so that we can do our week 1 previews, and we can do all that other sorts of fun stuff so that we can get ready for week 1 in fantasy. I don't know why Garlic is calling me a racist, but apparently I am a racist, and that is blasphemy. I need to get a chat bot to get words like that out of my chat. Yeah, so with that, I think I'm pretty much did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I think we covered it all.
All right.
And then some.
Right on. I just really appreciate everybody coming out, listening, watching. This definitely was an experience. I have a feeling that I need a little bit more practice at this, but it's going to get better as we go. I had a lot of fun. Jack, what did you think, man?
Yeah, it's a blast. I mean, there's always going to be some learning curves, but I think we're just doing this for the fun of it. Like you said, we'll get better, and the whole point is just to keep the league together and keep it more active. So even if you guys log on to watch just to make fun of us and our terrible takes, that's fine. I have fun doing it. We have fun doing it together, and we look forward to continuing throughout this crazy season.
Jack, I think you hit a really great point. This podcast is for our league members. It's fun. We want you guys to watch. We want you guys to listen. Make fun of our terrible takes. Take offense to us hating your teams and just coming back and kicking the crap out of us during the season. We love you all. We don't take it personally, or we don't, don't take anything that we say too personally. This is all supposed to be for fun and bragging rights and all that stuff. We're a competitive group. It's one of the best fantasy football leagues out there. Each year going down the stretch into the playoffs is just absolutely madness. So let's have fun this season, and I can't wait to come back on Saturday. Episode number 2. We're going to be kicking off the 2020 fantasy season. It's going to be so much fun. We'll see you guys soon. Peace out, everybody.
See you later.